All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another members-only roundtable. Actually, technically, this is going to be the first members-only roundtable for the LegaVolley Femmenile because, Tommy, when you and I did the preview for the LVF, that was still just general on the channel. So this will be the first time that we've done members-only with you for the LegaVolley Femmenile. My name is Everett DeLorme, and joining me this time is one of the absolute OGs, Mr. User TommyBlizzard from the Discord, from Reddit, also known as Mr. Tommaso Panini. Tommy, how are you today? How are things in Italy?
Hello, everyone. Things in Italy, as far as climate is concerned, are fine. We're experiencing what is called the San Martino summer, which is a sudden, comeback of a more early summer climate that we have roughly about this kind of year. There were 17 degrees Celsius in Bologna today.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
So far, so good.
Yeah, that is very different to what we're having in Canada. I was just telling you, we had fall on Saturday. It was 12 degrees, sunny and beautiful. And then on Sunday, we got like 15 centimeters of snow, and it was -7. So I think right now we're hovering around -5. We're very northern hemisphere people right now, just starting things off by talking about the weather. So I do have a disclaimer. If anyone has watched my live streams with other people as of late, you'll know that around the 1 hour, 1 hour 10 mark, my guest's audio goes out for some reason. I did go out and get a new software to use. I actually did that for the last time, but even though I deleted it, it defaulted, but I went in, I took it out completely. So if you do notice that Tommy's audio is going out, just please let me know in the chat as soon as possible. Of course, we've got our favorite Aussie Italian in the chat already. Aussie Tragic, buongiorno. How we all doing? Today we're here to talk about the LegaVolley Femmenile, and Tommy, we're about a third of the way through the season, correct? There's 24 matches in the season. Some teams have played 8 matches. Other teams have played to 7, depending on where they're at week by week. And we're just going to go over kind of a few different things. We're not going to go team by team because that's just a little bit boring. So we have a few topics that we want to touch on. But, early on in this season, I think it's actually been pretty interesting as far as LVF goes. Usually for me, the LVF is very not cut and paste, but it's just very, what you're going to be able to get. This should definitely be set to members only. I will double check that for sure right now. Oops. But usually in the LVF, it's just very obvious, like the teams that we expect to win, and the teams that we don't expect to win. Oh, members only, save, my bad. And the teams that we don't expect to win are losing. But there's been quite a few upsets early in the season. Of course, we did see Conegliano lose their first trophy since 2018. We'll have to talk about that. But before we get really into it, what have been your early season remarks and things that you've noticed about the LegaVolley Femmenile so far this season in 2025?
Well, yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Only one thing, but it's just to be precise. Every team has played 8 matches so far, with the exception of the first 3 teams in the standings, who have played 9, and Monviso, which also played 9. The other are all 8 games. With 8 games played, and but coming back to that, I pretty much agree with you. If you look at the standings, there are 11 teams compressed in 14 points from 3rd to 13th in the standings, and if I see correctly, I'm checking just to be sure, but except the first 2 places in the standings, there are no 2 teams that are separated by 2 or more points. Of course, counting only teams that are adjacent. So I think that so far it's been a very competitive league. Of course, we still have Conegliano undefeated at least in regular season, so that's always a big if. And yes, I think that so far we are in a situation where uh, take take Conegliano maybe off that list, but everyone can win or lose against anyone else, and that makes for a very unpredictable and entertaining regular season so far.
Yeah. Right now we have Conegliano in first, Consolini in 14th. That one was a little bit to be expected, although they did manage to get one win. So they are on the board with one win and 3 points, 2 points behind Bergamo. And it has been interesting. I mean, we've seen some teams go up and down. I mean, even Conegliano hasn't looked indestructible. They've kind of faltered at first. I mean, their first match of the season, they started by going down 2-0 to Busto, who Busto has looked great at times, but also terrible at others, and are currently sitting in 12th at 2-6. What as we start here, what has been your biggest surprise so far into this season?
It would be, I think it would be a choice between Cuneo and Macerata, and I would probably choose Macerata among the two, because in my preseason rankings I ranked them 14th out of 14. I didn't have very much faith in them, but as we probably discussed, Macerata has been the last team on a chronological order to be promoted to A1, and that way they started their transfer season started way later than the others, because of course they weren't sure which series they would have played in. And as I said, your only option, the only way to survive in such a situation is to get a bit lucky and find some diamond in the rough. And they definitely did with Suvi Kokkonen, which I'll be really honest, I didn't know about her. I just saw she was playing in the Romanian league or something. So I thought, I don't think she will be this big of a deal. Well, instead she was. She is. She's been doing great for Macerata. Also, the opposite, Clara de Cortes, is having apparently no trouble in adjusting from the A2 to the A1. The other Serbian spiker, Kokarevic, has been doing really well. The middle they signed to take over for Fariol, who got injured badly. And McClothier is doing really good as well. The libero is really good, Giorgia Caforio. And I think they were probably the biggest surprise, immediately followed by Cuneo, and not just because they caused Scandicci to suffer their only defeat so far, and in a kind of spectacular manner, because nobody expected them to actually dong Scandicci, not only beat, but dong Scandicci. Mm-hmm. And while they had some up and downs as well, but I mean, I ranked them like 12th out of 14 in the standings, but they found some good players as well, which I wasn't aware of. Jaden Keane, Erika Pritchard, Nova Maring also, when she came on the court, she did well. And I think and also Bintu Diop is having a great impact so far in the league. So
Bintu Diop has been great.
Yeah, so far everything is working pretty well for them. So yes, I would choose them. I wouldn't probably choose Firenze, even if they're even higher than them on the standings, because they probably had an easier schedule so far, and I think there are some underlying problems in Firenze that that will come up sooner or later. So I'm just a bit more, let's say, careful about Firenze, but so far they impressed. They are overperforming as well.
Yeah, it seems to me as though you have that top group of. Yeah. I'm going to call it the top 5 teams right now. We'll talk about Chieri in a second, because I think Chieri, is definitely kind of in that top five group. Right now they're sitting in fourth at 5-3, and you've got Novara, or sorry, at 6-2, and you've got Novara in five at 5-3. But then after that, from Firenze in sixth, even all the way down to Bergamo in 13th. And I know Bergamo has been a bit of an interesting go so far this year, but there seems to be a lot of parity. Now, touching on Bergamo real quick, this is a team that has only actually won 5 matches since they've only actually won 3 matches in 2025 when you include last season. 2 last season, 1 this year. What are we seeing with Bergamo, and what's it up with Cese Ailema, the Cuban outside that, last year she was the top scoring outside hitter in the league, and this year she just seems to struggle altogether.
Well, it's an interesting point for sure. I think that Bergamo probably got a bit overconfident with the way they began last season. They had a wonderful start, and they kind of lived off it for the remainder of the season. I mean, last season we had a very much more fractured, I would say, standings. So they basically locked, not mathematically, but factually, the playoff berth way in advance. So they kind of probably tanked the rest of the season. And this season they confirmed pretty much all their key assets. But there are some issues, and one of them is that probably they are still, especially on the middle. Bergamo was very good on the middles last year, but this year they changed the setter. And while I think the change of setter was a big improvement, because I'm very much fond of Ciderese, I think she's still having a bit of trouble connecting to her middles, especially with Manfredini. Manfredini is having pretty low offensive percentages. It's never been her best feature. She always had kind of low percentages for a middle, even though of course she's very young. She has very wide margins of improvement. But even there, I still see them struggling a bit, not only with the middles, but also with Mlenkova, who was never the top dog in Bergamo, but still she provided good points and a good contribution overall. While this season she's been having a very, very tough season, and I think her experience and leadership for such a young team is probably lacking some. Cese Montalvo is not doing that bad with respect to last season. She's even probably suffering for some underlying injury. For example, in the last match week, she sat on the bench the whole time, but there was no press release or anything related to her issues. Even the local newspaper just talked about precautionary rest. While I mean, Bergamo, of course, doesn't have the schedule of a Conegliano or something that can really think about precautionary rest. Also because it was a pretty important match for them. So I don't really see what the issue is with her, if she's actually having underlying physical problems, and maybe they're also trying to adapt to a system in which last season the opposite, Vittoria Piani, wasn't the first option. She was actually often the third option on offense. While this year, Kendall Kipp is an opposite that is probably more suited to a more opposite heavy style, and probably they're still trying to adapt to this new system. Yeah. But I am fairly confident that they will avoid relegation. Maybe not get to the playoffs, but they will improve over the season.
Cese Montalvo right now with about an 18% efficiency. 18%.
Wow, I thought way above that.
That's what your stat sheet is telling me here right now. So if you're looking there. She's averaging, pretty decently, like 3.34 points per set, which is quite decent. That's good for 11th amongst outside hitters in the league. But remember last year she was the best. But yeah, 18.68% real attack efficiency, according to your stat sheet here, Tommy. So I also appreciate you sending this over. It's much better to be able to talk to people and have stats and numbers and things compared to last time when we were just it was just the two of us chatting. So pretty interesting start to the season for Bergamo. Last year they made the playoffs, like you said. They had a really good first half of the season, and then this year they have really struggled. Only that one win over Consolini, and they have lost 6 in a row since then, with their last 2 being against Conegliano and Bergamo. But they do seem to have played quite a few of the big teams, Like in terms of the first half of the season, they've played Milano already. They've played Novara. They've played Chieri. They've played Conegliano, and they've played Scandici. So they've played the 5 big teams already so far. So maybe they're going to be able to come into some wins upcoming. Like they do have Perugia upcoming this weekend, but I mean Perugia is a pretty hot team right now, coming off a very big win this past weekend over Novara.
Yeah, I agree with you. You made a good point that I forgot to make. The schedule hasn't been very kind for them so far. But now, as you said, the rough part is over. But right now, they don't have that alibis so far, so they have to start making points. Because, as you said, the big teams are already dealt with. Not very good, but I mean, you can handle that on the condition that you score points with the other teams. They actually gained 1 point against Milan, if I don't remember correctly. If I remember correctly.
I think it was Novara.
Novara?
Let's see here.
I remember they gained 1 point with a big team.
Yeah, Novara on October 19th. They went to 5 with Novara. They also went to 5 with Busto Arsizio. And I mean, they were very close to winning that game, if I remember correctly. They were up 14-11, and then Busto went on quite the run. I believe it was Bosa who went on quite the run for Busto to push them further. But yeah, I mean, there's 5 matches left in the first half of the season, if you will, and Bergamo has to take on Perugia, Monviso, Cuneo, Firenze, and Macerata in those last 5 games in the first half of the season. So we'll see how they do. But talking about Perugia, this is a team that just got a nice win over Novara this past weekend, and they've been a bit of an up and down team so far. When you look at their results, winning against Novara, but losing against teams like Firenze, winning against Cuneo, and Cuneo, of course, is the only team to have beaten Scandici so far this season, but also losing to Macerata as well. Novara, especially with their 2 outside hitters, Beatrice Gardini and Elena Piranelli, do you think that is... Or sorry, not Novara, I apologize, Perugia. Do you think that is kind of a long-term duo that could do good things? Like is this a team that could maybe squeak into the playoffs this season?
I don't know. As you said, they were probably the most inconsistent team of the league. You never know what to expect from Perugia. One day they are able to beat Novara. The following day they get donked by maybe even Consolini if they are on a bad day. I think they're still trying to figure out what their assets will be. They are changing a lot of lineups. They had the starting libero and captain Sirresi out for until not long ago. They are changing middles pretty much every day. They still have to figure out who is the starter among them. They are switching the opposite very frequently. We still don't know who between Williams and Markovic is a designated starter. And every time there seems to one seems to be doing good. The very next match she does bad, and the other one has to sub her off. And the only Also Perinelli. Perinelli was fantastic against Novara, but he was very very less impressive in the rest of the season. So we still don't know what Perugia can and will be. The only anchor they have is Beatrice Verdini, as you mentioned, who is really having a good season. She has always been a good scorer, but she was incredibly inconsistent and inefficient in the past season. But this year she's having a really nice season. If my stats were correct, I think she was this season is like the second player in the whole league for offensive load, meaning the share of the attacks that she has on her team. I think she's second only to Egonu, which
Wow.
says a lot. And that's big, especially if you think she's an outside hitter, she's not an opposite. And she's doing good. It's up to her teammates to provide her the support Perugia needs to actually try to get out of this limbo that Perugia has every season. Basically, every season they are kind of a lower Valle Foglia, if you want. They start the season with good ambitions, and while Valle Foglia always gets stuck in the limbo, they often flirt too much with the relegation zone until having a blast at the end of the season and avoiding relegation, but always being far away from the playoff zone.
Yeah.
So it's up to the team, the other players, to come up and see if Perugia, in such a short standings, can actually have a shot at the playoffs.
Beatrice Gardini currently third amongst outside hitters, averaging 4.33 points per set, which is quite good. And I mean, I think her efficiency is pretty high too, hovering around 25%. Overall, her real attack efficiency. Now we talked about biggest surprises this season. Who's your biggest disappointment so far this season amongst teams?
Disappointment? Well, I think there are. No, I'd say Busto Arsizio. No chance. Busto Arsizio is definitely the answer. I mean, not that I had very high expectation of them, because I mean, they were kind of. I don't remember what's the English word for that, but they got kind of the low end of the stick in the whole Silla situation, where Milano was forced to anticipate the arrival of Piva, and Piva was of course key in their project. And so with the transfer season basically over, they had to find a replacement for a key player, and they ended up signed Maria Metwalli, which is actually an acceptable bench player for the level. But of course, she's not a substitute to Piva. And if you look at their stats, basically you have Obossa trying to carry them all game long, and you have Gennari, who's there only because she is supposed to be a good passer, even if she's not doing that great either this year. But her offensive numbers are simply awful.
Yes,
and
41 points in 8 matches so far for Alessia Gennari.
Yeah, that's very bad.
Yeah.
And so you always have to decide whether to sacrifice some passing to have some more offensive load with Battista. Also, Parra is having ups and downs. She had a couple of good games lately, but she also had a couple of very bad ones. I mean, they're sort of a Perugia, but with who had maybe also less luck, because of course they lost their captain Sette Boldini pretty early for a very serious injury, and while of course Nanani Seki is much more than a reserve. We all know what she's capable of. We all know that she's actually a good setter. But maybe my impression is that she doesn't have the same charisma as Boldini, the same ability to make the team work as Boldini.
Yeah.
But of course, Boldini has been there for a season already. She knows the mechanism better, and also maybe the fact that she basically doesn't speak Italian can be a tough one
I think that's definitely a tough situation there for and then Nami Seki. And I mean, at the same time, you've also got a Melanie Para who is a rookie, not only to the LegaVolley Femmenile, but she's just a rookie. Period in terms of pro volleyball pending last year at TCU in the United States. But it was really tough for Busto. You know, they went up 2-0 against Conegliano in their first match of the year. Then they got reverse swept, and then they had what I thought was actually a decent showing against Novara. They barely got away with the win against Bergamo, and then since then they have kind of had a bit of a rough go, losing 3 straight with the past 2 to Macerata and Monteviso. Do you see this Busto team getting better, and if so, how do you see them doing that?
I think they're in a very tough situation.
I think that response almost tells you everything you need to know. Just the disappointed
Yeah, because I mean, if I look at Bergamo and Perugia, I see the potential.
True. Yeah.
I see their situation as players underperforming or something that can actually click at some point. On Busto, I don't really see that much room for improvement, unless they find some kind of stability with their outside situation. If either Parra or Battista start having decent numbers on back row, and they can, or decent enough for them to be compensated with more than decent offense production. Because, I mean, right now, all the offensive load is on Obossa.
Yeah.
And maybe there is one thing in which they will improve, which is the connection with the middles. And because Van Avermaet, I think, is a very underappreciated middle. She has the potential to do better than she has done so far. Last year, she was wonderful. Katia Eckel comes from Conegliano, and she showed some glimpses. She even got MVP in one game. And also, Alice Torcolacci is an incredibly underestimated reserve. And of course, it's not the middles that will save you. But I think it's the area when they have the biggest margin of improvement right now. As far as Spiker goes, you can't ask Obossa to do more than that. And I already said enough about their outside hitters. So I think it's going to be tough for this season for Busto.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would tend to agree. Busto was also my pick there. I was really intrigued by this roster when I first saw it, especially with the potential dominance that they had on the opposite position, but they really haven't been able to string that together. Now, from I guess the bottom half of the bracket to the top half of the bracket, let's just talk about it right away. Milano beat Conegliano in the Supercoppa. It was the first time that Conegliano lost a Italian Supercup playoff, any Italian trophy since 2018. It was a very good match. We finally saw Milano has had questions about their second outside hitter position, and they figured it out in that match. Haven't really figured it out for the season, but they figured it out specifically in that match with Emma Canyon. What were your thoughts about that match? And do you think does that show that Conegliano is, a little less invincible than we thought they would be this season?
First of all, let me check some. Okay, I just one thing. In 2019, actually, the Coppa Italia went to Novara. But aside from that,
sorry, it was 2019. You're right, because I'm pretty sure Novara beat Conegliano in the semifinals of the 2019 Italian Cup. Correct?
Yes, a tie-break win with Edono still playing for Novara. But aside from that, you raise, of course, a very interesting point. Because, of course, this season, Conegliano doesn't seem as unbeatable as the past season. And I think if you look at the stats, last season there was a huge gap. Conegliano had by far the highest spiking efficiency of all league, and between them and the second best, there was a huge gap. Right now, I think there's only 2 2 percentage points between them and the second one, who I think is Scandici, but I'm not totally sure. But
on my numbers, I have Scandici actually ahead of Conegliano in terms of efficiency, in terms of pure efficiency. Scandici I have at 42% and Conegliano at 41.
Oh yeah, that's the one that doesn't take blocks into consideration. And yes, but also
No.
also considering that stat.
Oh no! I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't do. I didn't do stats. Yes, you're right. Actually, you are correct. So I'm going to fix that in my own stats right now as you talk here.
Yeah, but again, there's even there, if you don't count blocks, they're not the best team in the league. And if you count blocks, they have a little more than 1% more than Scandici, as in let's call it real offense spiking efficiency. So very, very small margins.
Very small.
And I mean, so far, they were able to dodge some bullets, as I mentioned. They reverse swept Busto, and even last Sunday they were 1-1 and down, if I remember correctly, 16-7 against Valle Foglia in the third set. And of course, they being Conegliano and Valle Foglia being Valle Foglia, they completed. They were able to complete an incredible comeback, which actually shows you that they're still an extremely strong team. But this year, they seem to be very much beatable, and Milan actually did so. Milan did so while it's one of those games that are always show you what a strange sport volleyball is, because as it happened for the last World Championship final, with Italy beating Turkey despite actually scoring less points than them, the same thing happened with Conegliano and Milano. I think Conegliano actually outscored Milano, but Milano won anyways. So teams have to be able to exploit those rare moments that this season seem not to be so rare, where Conegliano kind of falters, where Conegliano kind of their perfect machine kind of stumbles. Those moments are there. We saw them again 2 days ago with Valle Foglia.
Yeah.
And if you're not Valle Foglia, but sorry for Valle Foglia, I don't want to use them as the scapegoats or something. But if you are a stronger team, if you have a mentally stronger team, you have to take advantage of those moments, and then you can actually beat them. Of course, the fact that it became easier to beat them, but we are starting from a very, very, very hard level. So if before it was nearly impossible, now it's very, very hard. It's still an improvement, but it's more doable.
Their cast of athletes this year, their cast of characters, if you will, is much different than last year. I mean, I think you have to point out first and foremost with Gabi and Zhu. Gabi, I think, has gotten better. But at the beginning of the year, she was not looking like the Gabi Guimarães that we know who she is. Zhu Ting has been painfully average, in my opinion, all year long. And then when you go to the bench, you have Anika Daldarop, who has been very much lesser than, which is a surprise considering how well she played at the beginning of the season last year for Milano. And then you have Fatoumata Sylla, who has had some fantastic moments and has maybe some lesser moments. Of course, she's much more of a project than when you had on the bench last year with Kalia Lanier and Martina Lukashik, right? So there's quite a bit of a difference. And then it's the same thing too when you go with the backup setter from Nanami Seki to Jenna Ewart. All around, they are just a little bit lesser than what I had expected, but mostly I've been mostly surprised by the play of Gabi and Zhu. And as I mentioned, Gabi has made things a little bit better, but she hasn't been the unquestionable number one player on that team and the number one player in the league as she was last year. And in fact, I actually don't think it's much of an argument, but Bella Hawk has been absolutely carrying them so far this season. She has been an absolute monster. She was just named the LegaVolley Femmenile Player of the Month for October. And I mean, I think it's
Unanimously, I expect.
Pardon?
Unanimously, I expect.
Yeah, unanimously, no doubt about it. Do you think, now we haven't talked about it that much, but we have gone from using the Mikasa, which is the, like everyone sees that as the international ball, to the Molten. Do you think that has had an effect, especially with like Gabi and Zhu? Because, this is, there is a big difference, in my opinion, between the two balls. The Mikasa, it is better for higher skilled players. You need to hit that ball true. It moves a lot more. When it floats, it feels more. And then the Molten has a slightly heavier and more responsive bladder. So it is harder to kind of carve and chip and stuff like that, but you can really hit it hard. I think that to me is kind of one of the reasons why we're seeing really big physical players like a Bella Hawk, like an Abosa, really have good seasons this year, where the more skilled players like a Gabi, like a Zhu Ting, like Zhu, so I don't know how many times we've seen her just kind of tip the ball into high six or to three, and have the front row left side player come in and pick it up easily in trouble situations. It just seems like she's unable to control the ball like she normally would. Do you think the ball is having a bigger impact on the LegaVolley Femmenile this year than maybe people would have thought?
I'm sorry to let you down on this, but I can't really say. Maybe it's because I'm a bit too old to have to actually have used. I haven't been playing volleyball in a long time. So and also I have a very low experience for when it comes to actually playing the game. So I can't really give you an uninformed opinion on that. I will only say that this Mikasa versus Molten argument, I heard it from quite a lot of sources. So of course there might be some truth to that fact, but I'm really not. I really don't have the skills, the practical skills to give you an honest, informed opinion on that. But what you say about the physical players having a bigger impact this year is absolutely true. I mean, if you think about how, for example, Egono struggled in the beginning of last season, and this year she's back being the top scorer, or even being to the op, or even Torok, when she was healthy, had a fantastic start of the season. She's a very physical player. So what you say makes completely sense.
Ozzy is wondering in the chat if the story about the ball change is mafia involvement. I don't think there's a Molten mafia out there. Maybe in the United States, Molten has a pretty big presence and a pretty big stranglehold on NCAA volleyball, but I don't think they have the same presence. I do know that I think it was.
Aren't they both Japanese?
I mean, I'm sure it seems like most ball companies, but Molten doesn't sound like Japanese. Like Mikasa, definitely a Japanese company. I don't know so much about Molten. Are you looking it up right now?
Yeah, it came up a sofa company, but yeah, they're Japanese.
Okay, fair enough. I actually quite like the Molten. Back when I was coaching in the OCAA here in Canada, we used the Molten, if I remember correctly. And I just like the way it feels. It feels off my hands. I like the way as a setter, like it's a much grippier ball than the Mikasa. Like you can really dig your hands into the grooves and dish it. I do remember that back in the day, I mean, who was that the Cuban lefty who used to play for Modena? You know who? Angel.
Dennis.
Yeah, Angel Dennis. I was thinking Davis, Angel Dennis. Like when he went on that big 7-ace serving run, the LegaVolley used the Molten back then. And it's just like it's the type of ball that the harder you hit it, the harder it's going to spin and to be able to spin into the court. So I think that's honestly part of the reason why we've seen the big opposites just dominate. But I mean, Isabella Hawk was at a complete other level in the World Championships this year. I know they only played the 3 games with Sweden, but I think she was averaging like 7 or 8 points a set, just absolutely dominating. And it seems like she hasn't missed a beat this year. And despite, Conegliano not looking as good as they have been, not really having the, not really having the same dominance as you will. I mean, last year they were going up for another, big unbeaten streak, and this year that's already done early on. I do think that's one of the reasons. Now, in speaking of Isabelle Haak, unquestionably she has been the MVP so far this year, in my opinion. Is the MVP race just a 3-person race right now? Is it just going to be between Haak and Antropova and Agonu, and that's about it? Like, is there another player that we can think of that kind of belongs within the 3 of them so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we are both thinking about a potential 4 candidates says a lot. I think that those 3 players are by far the most rational candidates for MVP so far, of course. And but it's curious that you mentioned Antropova, because I think that she and Haak are living like two opposite trajectories. Like if you think about it, something that almost never happened with Conegliano is they won 9 games so far, and 5 times Haak got named MVP.
Yes,
it's something you rarely see in Conegliano. You see a more distributed, more varied homogeneous distribution of MVPs. I think also Haak got like 4 times MVP in the first 5 matches, something like that, where other players were slacking, if you want. She was carrying them very hard.
Yep.
And I think that's the perks of being Conegliano. Maybe Gabi doesn't play as Gabi, Zhu doesn't play as Zhu. Even the middles had some problems at a pretty rough start to the season as well. But you have Haak, and I mean, when you have such a player playing at such a peak, I mean, you can even afford all those things that you're still going to win. And then, of course, you have Antropova, who used to carry very hard Scandicci. But instead, they finally gave a reliable partner, Avery Skinner.
Yeah.
And you can see the results. They are just behind Conegliano. They lost only 1 game in a pretty unpredictable manner. But apart from that single event, they won all the other games. They dominated Milano. They are in a very good form. So yes, I mean, maybe it's time for someone else to carry the cross for Scandicci.
Well, one thing that has really surprised me or impressed me with Scandicci is in the past we've always really criticized them for having issues with the foreigner limit. And I think this year they've been able to manage that a lot better. But especially when you're looking at the win against Novara, with the reverse sweep against Novara, they were able to change things up and really put out a different team out there. They brought in, they had Graziani and Wakalor down the middle that I thought really worked out well. Like, Graziani was big for them in the 5th set there. Brenda Castillo was still able to be out in the court, and she made some massive plays down the stretch. As you said, Avery Skinner, I think, has been fantastic. And I just put out a video comparing the best Americans, and if you look at the play of Avery Skinner, Kalia Lanier, and then, of course, now Amber Agility, who is unfortunately gone as she's headed back to go play for League One. I'm sure that is a big thing for Novara. I honestly don't think Novara loses that match on the weekend to Perugia if Agility's there, because as good as Indy Byans is, she also went 1 for 5 with a negative efficiency in that 5th set. So that, I think Agility puts a ball or 2 away in that situation. But to me, Scandicci having a little bit more support in Skinner, Ozzy saying that, like, Sarah Franklin's able to come in off the bench and provide a real different look. I thought she was really good in serve receive as well too in that Novara game instead of Caterina Bossetti. It just seems like a bit of a different vibe vibe for this Scandici team. A little bit more calm, a little bit more where everyone knows their entire roles and they're not expecting someone to have an incredible match to kind of balance out from Antropova. And it just seems a little bit more calm ever since they lost that match to Cuneo earlier this year.
Yeah, I mean, we always have to start from the fact that the last year was Scam Vici as its best. I mean, remember the whole firing Antigua after 2 seasons, both
Two
won by
matches,
donks, and blaming him for messing up the Italian squad. It was again Scam Vici as its best. This season they actually got it together partially, because they are not still completely out of the let's call it the Italian trap, because when they have to take Bosetti off to put in, let's say, Franklin, who, as you said, is having a great season, they still have to take Kami Weitzel off the court.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only fact is that while she's having an absolutely wonderful season so far, Weitzel has been proving herself as maybe arguably, now that IGD left, arguably the best middle in the league right now. But behind her, there are 3 Italian middles who are really good. I mean, you mentioned Graziani. Graziani and Wacker are both able to start from Scandici, so it's not that big of a deal losing Weissel, but also the 4th string.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Tommy. I still don't know what's up with my fucking goddamn audio. So